السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته يا شيخ.
أبا عبد الرحمن، كيف الحال؟
الحمد لله يا شيخ.
نبدأ الدرس. نبدأ.
نعم يا شيخنا.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. أما بعد. Today, inshallah, in continuation of our book, Siyar A'alām An-Nubala, and we are reading from it, Seerah A, Āishah al-Mu'mineen radiyallahu anha, our mother Āishah. How was her life from the beginning of life into growing up, into marriage, and the major events between herself and her husband, the best of mankind, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. In this book, Siyar A'alām An-Nubala, we are reading from the third volume. We stopped at page 167 regarding the issue between Āishah radiyallahu anha and some of the people who have an opinion that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam saw with his two eyes, with his eyes on his head, like the scholars say. They will say the aynay ra'sihi, with the two eyes on his head. We talked about ru'yatullah, seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the last class. For her, that was a big event in the life of her husband, the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, that he would have traveled on Al-Mi'raj. The Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, on a single night, he went on a journey. The first one, Al-Isra, that was from Mecca to Baytul Maqdis. And the second one was Al-Mi'raj, the journey from Baytul Maqdis into the heaven together with Jibreel alayhi salatu wassalam. So for her, that was a big event in the life of her husband. Of course, that she would have been discussing with him. She would have been asking him, radiyallahu anha, how the journey was. And she definitely reported from him, alayhi salatu wasalam, narrations regarding that journey to the heaven by her husband, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In the last class, we divided ru'yatullahi, seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, into four kinds. Seeing Allah, we divided it into four kinds. Ru'yatu rasuli sallallahu alayhi wa sallam rabbahu iyyanan ala al-ard. The Prophet seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala iyyanan, with his two eyes, ala al-ardi, while on the surface of that. We cited an ijma from the Salaf. They say that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam never saw Allah while awake with his two eyes on the earth. Allah, who did not descend to come to the surface of the earth to be seen by the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. No one said this. No report from the Prophet said this. None of the companions said this. And the A'imma are agreed that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he never saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while on the surface of the earth with his two eyes. And that comes from a hadith that the Prophet said, meaning that's ijma. is ijma'un mun'akidun mustanadun ala dalil. That ijma' is an ijma' that is established, and it has an established fact from the text of hadith, because the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, wa'alamu annakum lan taraw rabbakum, wa'alamu, you all should know, annakum, that certainly you all, lan taraw rabbakum, you will never see your Lord. We remember the incidents between Musa alayhi salam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. During that incident, Allah also told Musa alayhi salam, lan tarani, you can never see me. That is on the surface of the earth. So on the surface of the earth, with the two eyes, while awake, the Prophet never saw Allah subhanahu. The second kind of seeing is ru'yatun Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam li rabbi manaman. The Prophet seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his dream. This one is established also bil ijma'. And the ijma', like we mentioned for the first one, is also established, and it has isnad, it has a basis in the sunnah, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ra'a rabbahu manaman. The Prophet saw Allah in his dream, alayhi salatu wassalam. That hadith has been widely reported by the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, alayhi salatu wassalam, including Abdullah ibn Abbas, including Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, including Mu'adh ibn Jabal, Abu Umama al-Ba'ili, Thawban Mawla Salama, Fudayl, Ubay ibn Ka'b, his wife, Fudayl, she also reported it, that the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ra'aytu Rabbi fil manam, I saw my Lord in the dream, fi ahsani surah, in the best of forms. The Prophet said so. And the ijma' is established. Al-Imam Qadi Iyad cited that ijma', and the Muslims are agreed. There's a consensus that what the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saw Allah in his dream. The hadith is authentic. It is from the Aqidah of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. The third matter regarding Ru'yatullah is Ru'yatul Mu'minina li Rabbihim Yawm al-Qiyamah. The Muslims seeing the people of Iman inside Al-Jannah. We all shall see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the day of Qiyamah. This is also an ijma'. It's a matter upon which the Ummah is agreed upon. It is also based on evidence from the Quran and evidence from the Hadith, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam told us that we shall see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Hafiz ibn Kathir rahimahullah in his tafsir says, هذا مجمع عليه بين الصحابة. This is agreed upon amongst the companions, والتابعين, and those who came after them, the tabi'un, وسلف هذه الأمة, and likewise the early Muslims who came after the companions and the tabi'un. They are all agreed that we shall see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of Qiyamah. And the Prophet told us, alayhi salatu wasalam, when he explained a verse to us, as is in a hadith in Sahih Muslim, when Allah said, لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا الْحُسْنَى وَزِيَادَةً, لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا, for those who were righteous, who acted righteously while on the surface of the earth, al-husna, they will get al-jannah wa ziyada. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that ziyada upon al-jannah is to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We also have a clear-cut verse in Surah Al-Qiyamah, when Allah said, وُجُوهُ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. Allah also told us about kuffar, that إِنَّهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنْ رَبِّهِمْ لَا مَحْجُوبُونَ. The kuffar will be prevented from seeing Allah on the day of Qiyamah. What does that mean? The people of Iman will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So much so that Al-Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal would say that من زعم أن الله لا يرى في الآخرة فقد كفر بالله العظيم. Whoever claims that Allah will not be seen on the day of Qiyamah, God, he has certainly كفر بالله العظيم. He has disbelieved in Allah the Almighty. وكذب القرآن. Such a person has claimed that the Quran was telling a lie. He has disbelieved in the Quran. وَرَدَّ اللَّهِ أَمْرَهُ. That person is rejecting an affair that Allah has already decided upon. He is rejecting it because the verses are clear in the Quran. So on the day of Qiyamah, inside Al-Jannah, may Allah make us from the people of Al-Jannah. We shall see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A hadith regarding this are clear. The verses of the Quran about this are also clear. Bismillah. The fourth kind of seeing Allah that we discussed in the last class was ru'yatul rasuli li rabbihi laylatal mi'raj. The Prophet seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during the night of his ascension into the heavens. Did he see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There are statements from some companions that have been understood to mean that he saw Allah, like a statement from Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, and some of the scholars have that view, like Al-Imam Ibn Khuzaymah in Kitab al-Tawheed, like Al-Imam Abu Bakr al-Ajurri in that book Ash-Shari'ah. Imam Abu Bakr al-Ajurri in Ash-Shari'ah, he was going forth backwards, bringing proofs to say that the Prophet during Laylatul Mi'raj, he saw Allah with his eyes. He, from that, narrated an author from Abdullah ibn Abbas that he was said to have said that Al-Kalamu li Musa. As for Musa, his own was that Allah spoke to him. وَالرُّؤْيَةُ لِمُحَمَّدٍ. As for seeing, that has to do with what? Who? The Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So that statement was from Abdullah ibn Abbas. So there are others amongst the scholars, like Al-Imam al-Alusi in his tafsir. He also has a view that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saw Allah with his eyes when he went on Al-Mi'raj. But our mother Āishah, she rejected it. So herself and a large majority of the scholars, they are of the opinion, and that is a valid truth, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did not see Allah during Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. And that is based on a hadith from Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, that Abdullah ibn Shaqiq, Abu Wa'il, one of the students of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he asked Abu Dharr, I wish I saw the Prophet. I have questions I would have asked him. Say, what would you have asked him? Say, one of the questions I was whether he saw Allah when he went on Al-Miraj. This version that it was an issue people were discussing at that time, whether he saw Allah or not. They said, I wish if I had met the Prophet, because the Mukhadramun were people who had accepted Islam before the Prophet died. What he was saying, Abu Wa'il al-Basri. So Abu Dharr al-Ghifari answered him and said, Sa'altu Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, hal ra'ayta rabbak? I also asked him that question you said you wanted to ask him. Did you see your Lord? He said, the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ra'aytu nura. I only saw a light. So he did not see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He did not see Allah. In another report, he said, nurun, light. It was light alayhi wa sallam saw Allah duriyata Allah. Such a person had Allah. وَلَكِنَّهُ رَأَى جِبْرِيلَ فِي صُورَتِهِ, in his actual form that he was created. In the form that Jibreel was created. The Prophet saw him twice. Otherwise, he used to come in the feature of a human being. The Prophet saw him once at the beginning of the message. Then he saw him once again at As-Sidratul Muntaha on the night of Al-Mi'raj. So twice. Because Jibreel is a huge creature. In some reports, he has about 600 feathers, 600 wings, 600. And by his standing alone without spreading his wings, he covered the heavens. On both occasions, the Prophet saw him. Jibreel was covering the heavens when he stood. You will not see anything in the sky again. So how about when he extends his wings, one or two? Jibreel alayhi salam, the actual form Allah created. So Āishah said, radiyallahu anha, وَلَكِنَّهُ رَأَى جِبْرِيلَ, but the Prophet only saw Jibreel marratayn, twice, fi suratihi, in his actual form that he was created. وَخَلْقُهُ سَادًّا مَا بَيْنَ الْأُفْقِ وَخَلْقُهُ, on the day that the Prophet saw Jibreel on those two occasions, خَلْقُهُ, his creation, his form, Sa'dan, it was covering ma bain al-ufuq, whatever was in the sky. It covered everything up, Jibreel. So the Prophet saw him like that, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, twice. And Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, هذا حديث صحيح بالإسناد. This hadith, it has an isnad that is sahih. It's occurs in Musnad Imam Ahmad. It also has other riwayat with this meaning in Sahih Bukhari, in Sunan At-Tirmidhi, and in other books of hadith. So Imām Adh-Dhahabi went on to say that وَلَمْ يَأْتِنَا نَصٌّ جَلِيٌّ بِأَنَّ النَّبِيَّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ وَسَلَّمَ رَأَى اللَّهَ تَعَالَى بِعَيْنَيْهِ. There is no clear-cut text that said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw Allah on that night of Al-Mi'raj. No clear-cut, nassun jaliyun, a text that is clear, does not exist to say that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw Allah. Like we mentioned earlier, what is clear is that text from Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, who said, I asked the Prophet, did you see Allah? I said, no, I did not see Allah. That is a clear-cut text that the Prophet did not see Allah on the night of Al-Mi'raj, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Imam Adh-Dhahabi said, وَلَمْ يَأْتِنَا نَصٌّ جَلِيٌّ, no clear text has been transmitted to, has come to us, بِأَنَّ النَّبِيَّ, saying that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam رَأَى اللَّهَ تَعَالَى بِعَيْنَيْهِ, saying that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam saw Allah with his two eyes. But Imam Adh-Dhahabi went on to say, وَهَذِهِ الْمَسْأَلَةِ, whether the Prophet saw Allah on the day of Al-Mi'raj or not, مِمَّا يَسَأُ الْمَرْأَ الْمُسْلِمَ فِي دِينِهِ السُّكُوتُ عَنْهَا. It's okay, what is sufficient for a Muslim, and yaskuta anha, to keep quiet regarding it. So if someone asks you, did the Prophet see Allah on the day of Qiyah, on the day of Mi'raj? He did not see Allah on Mi'raj. That's from clear-cut hadith from Abu Dharr, and the statement from Āishah. Āishah will not be ignorant, radiyallahu anha. She will not be a person who does not know whether he saw him or not. And that's why she was emphasizing, whoever says that the Prophet saw Allah, أَعْظَمَ عَلَى اللَّهِ فِرْيَةً, you have told a big lie and ascribed a big lie. A big mistake you are making and ascribing that mistake to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فالإمام الذهبي said, وَهَذِهِ الْمَسْأَلَةُ مِمَّا يَسَعُ الْمَرْءَ الْمُسْلِمَ فِي دِينِهِ السُّكُوتُ عَنْهَا. It is sufficient. Silence regarding this matter is okay for you as a Muslim. The Prophet did not say Allah on Mi'raj. What you must affirm as far as Ar-Ru'ya is concerned is the Ru'ya to say that the Prophet saw Allah in his dream. You must affirm that. The companions are agreed upon that. Did the Prophet ﷺ see Allah on the surface of the earth? You must reject that. The companions have rejected it. Will the Prophet in the future inside Al-Jannah, alayhi salatu wasalam, will he see Allah like we, the rest of the Muslims? We must affirm it. He will see Allah. Anyone who rejects this, like Imam Ahmad said, that person is rejecting Iman and getting into kufr by that rejection. But as for Laylatul Mi'raj, if you say, oh, I don't know about this, why? There's no clear-cut text like Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, it's okay. But the clear-cut matter is that he did not see Allah, as has been affirmed by Āishah radiallahu anha and Abu Dharr al-Ghifari. The Imām Adh-Dhahabi went on to say, فَأَمَّا رُؤْيَةُ الْمَنَامِ, but as for seeing Allah in his dream, فَجَاءَتْ مِنْ وُجُوهٍ مُتَحَدِّدَةٍ مُسْتَفِيضَةٍ جَاءَتْ مِنْ وُجُوهٍ مُتَعَدِّدَةٍ مُسْتَفِيضَةٍ. It has been reported min wujuhin, from various routes and chains of reports, muta'addida, a number of them, mustafida, that are wide. A lot of reports have come. Various reports have come to say from various sources that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually saw Allah in his dream. He said, "Ra'aytu Rabbi sallallahu alaihi wasallam." He said, "Ra'aytu Rabbi fil manam fi ahsan as-surah." Saw my Lord in my dream in the best of forms. Imam Adh-Dhahabi said, as for these two, it is established, we must accept it. وَأَمَّا رُؤْيَةُ اللَّهِ عِيَّانًا فِي الْآخِرَةِ, but as for seeing Allah with our two eyes at Akhirah, فَأَمْرٌ مُتَيَقَّنٌ, it is an amr, it's a matter that is certain. تَوَاتَرَتْ بِهِ النُّصُوص, the texts have come variously. That's what we shall see Allah on the day of Qiyamah. جَمَعَ أَحَادِيثَهَا الدَّارَقُطْنِيُّ وَالْبَيْهَقِيُّ وَغَيْرُهُمَا. The ahadith that we shall see Allah on the day of Qiyamah, they have been compiled in single books by Al-Imam Ad-Daraqutni, Al-Imam Al-Bayhaqi, وَغَيْرُهُمَا, and others apart from them, like Al-Imam Ibn Khuzaymah in Kitab al-Tawheed, likewise Al-Imam Al-Ajurri in his work Ash-Shari'ah. This is the summary of what we discussed in the last class. So we are going to go into another matter regarding our mother Āishah. This time around regarding her look and her complexion. Radiyallahu anha. There are some reports around that. How does she look like? Radiyallahu anha. Al-Imām Adh-Dhahabi has reported this asar in a manner different from the previous asar that he reported. The last asar that he reported, if you come to page 166, the first of it, he said, أخبرنا أبو الفدا. So he's quoting his own isnad in 167. This asar, Abu al-Hasan al-Madaini, Al-Imam Hisham ibn Urwa ibn Zubayr. I'm sure we'll remember this isnad always. Hisham ibn Urwa and Abihi and Āishah. Hisham ibn Urwa Amman and Abihi. Man Abu Hisham, Urwa ibn Zubayr and Āishah. Urwa ibn Zubayr grew up inside the house of Āishah. But the person who has reported this hadith from them is Yazid ibn Iyad. This Yazid ibn Iyad is a very weak reporter of hadith. So this asar we are reading is what? Is weak. This asar we are reading is weak. And Imām Adh-Dhahabi said so too. But let us quickly know what was it that the Athar said, and what are the things that came in this book regarding the content of this Athar that is weak. Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi said, Abul Hasan al-Madaini an Yazid ibn Iyad and Hisham ibn Urwa and Abihi. His father was Urwa. دخل عيينة ابن عليه السلام وعنده عائشة رضي الله عنها وذلك قبل أن يضرب الحجاب. In this isnad, Yazid ibn Iyad mentioned that Hisham ibn Urwa said to him from Urwa that دخل عيينة ibn Hisn. There was a man called Uyayna to Ibn Hisn. He was very popular amongst the Arabs. In the days of Jahiliyyah, he used to lead his tribe in wars against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Uyayna ibn Hisn. In fact, some scholars say his actual name was not Uyayna. Uyayna was his nickname. His actual name was Hudhayfa al-Fazari. He is from Banu Fazar. He was said he used to lead his tribe in wars against the Prophet up to Khandak, Ghazwatul Ahzab. He was still the head of his people against the Prophet in that battle, Uyayna ibn Hisn. But later he accepted Islam. So in this Athar, Urwa ibn Zubayr was reported to have said that دخل عيينة ibn Hisn على رسول الله. Uyayna ibn Hisn came to visit the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the Prophet's house. وعنده Āishah. And at the time Uyayna came in, Āishah radiyallahu anha was with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And Urwa also said, وَذَلِكَ قَبْلَ أَنْ يُضْرَبَ الْحِجَابِ. These incidents happened before hijab. Because after hijab, you can't see, you could not have seen Āishah after hijab. After hijab, you can't see Āishah. We are coming back to this issue. This report is a weak report, but I want us to know what it contains. Because the reading and what shall come after it is because of one of the things that it contains. And that one occurs in some authentic hadith. We are coming back to that, inshallah. So Urwa ibn Zubayr said, دخل عيينة ibn Hisn ala Rasulillah. Uyayna ibn Hisn came visiting the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in his home. وعنده عائشة رضي الله عنها. And Āishah was with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وذلك قبل أن يضرب الحجاب. These incidents happened before the hijab was legislated. فقال عيينة ibn Hisn now said, من هذه الحميراء يا رسول الله. من هذه الحميراء. Who is this light complexion lady, O Messenger of Allah? Humayra is the tasgir of Hamra'u. Hamra is the actual word that describes the complexion. Humayra is a young girl that has that complexion. A young girl that is light in her complexion. This complexion has some reddish form of it. And the best of what we can call it is the complexion of millet. You know how brownish, bright brown millet is. That is it. Moving towards red a bit. That is the complexion that was being talked about. Man hadhihi al-Humayra ya Rasulullah. In this report it said that Uyayna ibn Hisn asked the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Man hadhihi al-Humayra ya Rasulullah. Messenger of Allah, who is this young girl with this complexion, reddish complexion? O Messenger of Allah. قال هذه عائشة بنت أبي بكر الصديق. The Prophet said, this is Āishah, the daughter of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. قال, it's this Hathar said that Uyayna now said, أفلا أنزل لك أن أجمل النساء. أَفَلَا أَنزِلُ لَكَ عَنْ أَجْمَلِ النِّسَاءِ. Should I not leave one of the best women for you? Meaning, perhaps that he would divorce a wife and give it to the Prophet. And that would be more beautiful than this one that is sitting near you. This report is very weak. Don't forget, Yazid ibn Iyad is a very, very weak report of hadith. In fact, the scholars refer to him, as we shall come back to see, as Matruk. Matruk is someone who lies in his daily affairs. He may not lie to fabricate a hadith, but if he is lying in his day-to-day affairs, there is nothing that says that he cannot lie regarding a hadith. So this is the ruling of this person. He is different from those they refer to as kazzabun, liars. Kazzabun amongst the scholars of hadith are wadda'un, those who deliberately tell lies and ascribe those lies to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were well known. But this man, in his own case, he lies in his daily affairs. So he could lie in a hadith too, because he is known to lie in daily affairs. So his narrations are mashrukun. His narrations are abandoned. He's not a person who reports a hadith that can be accepted. And there are things inside this affair that he has reported that show that it's a weak report. We shall come back to them, inshallah. So it said that Uyayna ibn Hisnin said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Afala anzilu laka an ajmali nisa." Should I not leave one of the best women, most beautiful women? Should I not leave one for you? He was said to be asking the Prophet. Qala la. The Prophet said, no, I don't want. Falamma kharaj, when Uyayna ibn Hisnin went away. قالت عائشة. Aisha asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Man hadha ya Rasulullah?" Who is this man who just went? قال هذا أحمق المطاع في قومه. The Prophet said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, هذا أحمق المطاع في قومه. This is the most stupid, the most useless. Ahmaq. If a person is mentioned to be ahmaq, he is a very foolish person. He is a very foolish person. So this man is very foolish. Al-muta'u fi qawmihi. Even though his people are following him. His people follow him. He leads them in battles. But he's one of the most stupid amongst them. It was said that the Prophet said this thing. And many times those who study Arabic literature, when they mention this man, they say, ascribing to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the Prophet said that he is ahmaqul muta'u fi qawmihi, the stupid man in his community, yet he's the leader of the community. He's a stupid idiot, yet he is muta'un fi qawmihi. He's among the people that his people will listen to, even though he's from the most stupid amongst them. Those who get very busy with Arabic literature, they know this expression. Ahmaku, rajulun, rajulul ahmaku, or rajulun ahmakun, yani, wa huwa muta'un fi qawmihi. He is a stupid person, but he is followed by his people. His people respect him and follow him, even though he is from amongst the most stupid amongst them. And the dependence they have is from this asar. But this asar is very, very, very weak. Imām Adh-Dhahabi himself explained it. In fact, I think he deliberately cited it to show that it is weak and it is not something people should say and ascribe any value to. He said, هذا حديث مرسل. This hadith is mursal. Why did he call it mursal? This is from the report of a tabi'i an Rasulillah. رواية التابعي عن رسول الله ما أسنده التابعي إذا التابعي like Urwa ibn Zubayr, like Atta ibn Abi Rabah, like Muhammad ibn Sirin and others. These are tabi'un. If they say Prophet said, without mentioning the companion who told them that the Prophet said it, that kind of a report is mentioned to be mursal. If a tabi'i reports something, Urwa is reporting this matter as if he was there and he was not there. He heard it. Who told you? Remains to be found out. So you see there's a broken chain between Urwa ibn Zubayr and who? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Urwa cannot tell us what the Prophet said or did except from Āishah. And he is not telling us in this isnad that Āishah told me that. He's just telling us what happened, what the Prophet said, what Uyayna ibn Hisn said. So this asar is mursal. It's a report with a broken chain. So it's not reliable. Al-Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, هذا حديث مرسل. This is a broken chain, a report where a tabi'i is reporting from a prophet, from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that is mursal. Wa Yazid, and Yazid ibn Iyad, matruk, is a reporter that is abandoned. Is a reporter whose reports are what? Abandoned. Why? Tells lies in his daily affairs. In fact, some scholars go on to say, like Imam Malik, Ramahu bil Kazib. Imam Malik said, he tells lies. Yazid ibn Iyad tells lies. Many others too said others regarding him, like Imām An-Nasa'i. Imam Yahya ibn Ma'in said, Laysa bi-thiqatin. He is not a reliable reporter of hadith. So on a second count, apart from being mursal, it also has another defect. What is the defect? Yazid ibn Iyad is what? Is matrukul hadith, a person whose reports should be thrown away. So it means don't make this statement and ever say, and you should ever now come back and say, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam referred to any person, Uyayna ibn Hisn, that هذا أحمق المطاع في قومه, هذا أحمق المطاع في قومه. This is one of the most stupid of the people that people are following in their tribe. He is stupid and yet they are following him. One of the most stupid. He is the most stupid amongst those people follow in their tribe. Don't say that the Prophet said that. Why? It has been reported by Yazid ibn Iyad, and the reports of Yazid ibn Iyad are abandoned. Why are they abandoned? He is known to tell lies. The second reason why you cannot ascribe it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was that Urwa ibn Zubayr was the one narrating it, and Urwa ibn Zubayr did not meet the Prophet. He could not have been narrating an incident between the Prophet and another man. The Prophet had died before Urwa grew up. He was far little young, but if he was even born while the Prophet was alive, radiallahu anhu and Urwa, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. I hope that this is clear. So Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, هذا حديث mursal. This is a hadith from a tabi'i reporting from the Prophet. It is weak. وَيَزِيد, and Yazid ibn Iyad matruk is a person whose reports are abandoned. There's a third reason why this report should be abandoned. Al-Imam Adh-Dhahabi mentioned it. وَمَا أَسْلَمَ أُيَيْنَةُ إِلَّا بَعْدَ نُزُولِ الْحِجَابِ. Uyayna ibn Hisn, who was said to have come in and saw Āishah, and in the report it said that وَهَذَا قَبْلَ ضَرْبِ الْحِجَابِ, that the incidents happened before hijab was established. Imam Adh-Dhahabi said no, Uyayna ibn Hisn did not accept Islam until after hijab was already established. So that showed, these are evidences that perhaps these are from the lies of Yazid ibn Iyad. Three reasons. One, it is mursal. Yazid ibn Iyad himself could have said, Urwa said this. And scholars will say, no, this is irsal. Urwa cannot report directly from the Prophet. The second thing, that you yourself, citing Urwa, you're a weak reporter, you tell lies. The third thing is, that Uyayna ibn Hisn you said, who visited the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his Islam was late. We mentioned that during the Battle of Ahzab, Ghazwatul Ahzab happened around between 6th and 7th year of Hijrah too. And don't forget, he was from amongst those who led his family, his tribe to fight in Al-Ahzab. So he accepted Islam بعد نزول الحجاب, after hijab was already established. So this report is weak. He referred to our mother Āishah as Humayra. So Imām Adh-Dhahabi went on and said, وَقَدْ قِيلَ, and it has been said that إِنَّ كُلَّ حَدِيثٍ فِيهِ يَا حُمَيْرَا لَمْ يَصِحَّ. إِنَّ كُلَّ حَدِيثٍ فِيهِ يَا حُمَيْرَا. You see, this hadith said that Uyayna was referring to Āishah as what? Humayra. Man hadhihi al-Humayra. Who is this bright skin person whose complexion tends towards being reddish? Who is this? So this Humayra, this hadith, this word Humayra, many of the scholars say that any hadith you find Āishah being referred to as Ya Humayra, that hadith is weak. Imām Adh-Dhahabi said so. That's what could kill. He is telling us why this report is weak. This is the fourth reason why the report is weak. The first reason why it is a weak report is that it is Musa. Urwa ibn Zubayr did not meet the Prophet. He could not be reporting an incident involving the Prophet without citing from whom he had heard it. The second issue why this report is weak is that Yazid ibn Iyad, who claimed to have reported from Hisham ibn Urwa himself, is a weak reporter. He is known to lie in his reports. The fourth reason why the report is unauthentic is that he did not accept Islam. Uyayna, who was said to visit the Prophet and said that to the Prophet, Ma aslama illa ba'da nuzul al-hijab. He did not accept Islam until after hijab was revealed. The fourth reason why Ad-Dhahabi rahimahullah in this book proves this narration to be very weak is that any hadith where you find Humayra being said, that the scholars of hadith said that hadith lam yasihha, that hadith is not authentic. Here the scholars said that وَفِي هَذِهِ الْكُلِّيَّةِ نَظَرٍ. Yes, it is true that the bulk of the ahadith that has Humayra are weak. But some scholars say that one is authentic from those ahadith that has Humayra. Yes, the scholars of hadith, that's how they are. They go and search for it. So some scholars say, majority say, every hadith. Once you see Ya Humayra, they are referring to Āishah, is weak. But there's one. That one is authentic. That one has Ya Humayra inside it, and it is authentic. Others say no, there are two. So these are the two that we have. Some say one, some say two, but the correct thing is that there are two. There are two ahadith that has Āishah being referred to as Humayra, and those two ahadith are what? They are weak. But this is not part of them. This hadith of Uyayna is not part of those two. Is this clear to us? We'll come back to them, inshallah. So Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, وَقَدْ كِيلَ إِنَّ كُلَّ حَدِيثٍ فِيهِ يَا حُمَيْرَا لَمْ يَصِحَّ. And it has been said by the scholars that every hadith that contains that expression, Ya Humayra. What does Ya Humayra mean? Oh, you bright complexion lady who has some reddish, the brightness is towards reddish changes, reddish coloration. That is the meaning of Humayra. So it is not authentic. So Abdul went on to say, وَأَوْهَا ذَلِكَ. And from the weakest of those ahadith that has Humayra is the hadith of Tashmisul Ma. There's a hadith that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam one day that Āishah radiallahu anha went to place water in the sun because of cold. So when the sun beats the water, it becomes warm. Then he could make wudu with it. It said that when Āishah did that, the Prophet now said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, لا تفعلي يا حميرة يا حميرة لا تفعلي. Oh Humaira, that is referring to Āishah. لا تفعلي, don't do it. فإنه يورث البرص, because when you put water in the sun and the sun beats it, making it become warm, it brings about leprosy. This hadith is very weak. In fact, some scholars call it mawdu'. It is fabricated. But don't forget, the point inside it is that it refers to Āishah as what? Ya Humaira. I hope that it is clear. Al-Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, فَإِنَّهُ خَبَرٌ مَوْضُوعٌ. This very khabar that the Prophet said to Āishah because she placed water in the sun, that لَا تَفْعَلِي يَا حُمَيْرَةَ فَإِنَّهُ يُورِثُ الْبَرْصِ, that don't place water in the sun until it becomes warm. Don't do it. فَإِنَّهُ, because doing so, or that kind of a water, يُورِثُ الْبَرْصِ, it brings about leprosy. This hadith is mawdu'. Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, فَإِنَّهُ خَبَرٌ مَوْضُوعٌ. Now he wants to start telling us about that complexion. What does it mean when Arabs say Humaira? We'll explain it. That the actual word itself is Hamra. That is a person who has some light complexion, but the lightness is towards the reddish shade. Al-Dhahabi said, وَالْحَمْرَاءُ فِي خِطَابِ أَهْلِ الْحِجَازِ. When the people of Hijaz, the Arabs in the Arabian Peninsula, when they say Hamra'u, هِيَ الْبَيْضَاءُ بِشُفْرَةٍ, what they mean is بَيْضَاءُ بِشُفْرَةٍ, that is, the person is whitish, is very bright in the person's skin, naturally light, very light in his complexion or in her complexion, as the case may be. Al-Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, وَهَذَا نَادِرٌ فِيهِمْ, and this is a complexion that was scarce amongst them. You don't usually find an Arab that's so light in complexion. Do you understand? وَمِنْهُ فِي الْحَدِيثِ, and another use of that expression, Hamra'u, or something near it, in this case regarding a male, because Hamra'u is a kalima that is what? Mu'annafa. But in this hadith we want to read now, it was mentioned referring to a male. So its siga, its expression will come in another form. So وَمِنْهُ فِي الْحَدِيثِ, that expression, a person was so called by that too. رَجُلٌ أَحْمَرُ كَأَنَّهُ مِنَ الْمَوَالِي. There's a hadith that one day Abū Nāsir al-Ash'ari wanted to eat food. فَأُتِيَ ذِكْرَ دَجَاجَةٍ. So they were discussing, and they started mentioning dajaja. They started mentioning the chicken. وعنده رجل من بني تيم الله. And there was a man in front of Abū Nāsir al-Ash'ari. I want to tell us the background to this expression. When it said رجل أحمر كأنه من الموالي, we're actually discussing that complexion. Al-Hamra, the light complexion, very light. In fact, very, very light now. Very light complexion. That's what we are talking about. So we said that it is scarce amongst the Arabs to find someone light, almost becoming like so white. They are usually in the color of wheat. When you now find someone, if brighten the color of wheat, you see that it will be turning towards like white like that. So the person, this kind of a complexion was scarce amongst them. So Al-Imām Adh-Dhahabi wanted to tell us again another person who had that complexion in the books of Hadith. He was a man. That man was a slave. Like he had that complexion, because those complexion used to be like the complexion of Persians. If you make Hajj or Umrah, watch the Iranians. Watch the Iranians. That's their complexion. That is the complexion we are talking about. It's usually whitish, bright, clean. You will not see a dot on it. So that kind of a complexion is scarce amongst the Arabs. Don't forget that the Iranians are Persians originally. They were not Arabs. So amongst the Arabs in the Arabian Peninsula, that kind of a complexion was scarce. I hope that the matter is clear now. So it's that complexion that we are talking about, that bright complexion, almost looking like white, bayda, almost looking like white, bishufra. It's like a complexion that is very, very near, like the color of halib. Yes, that is how whitish that complexion can go. But it was a complexion that was scarce amongst the Arabs. So if you call somebody Humaira, you are saying that that person has that complexion, but that person is a young person, small girl with a very bright, light complexion. That is the meaning of what? Humaira. So we have hadith that shows that Āishah was Humaira. It was a complexion that was scarce amongst the Arabs. So another person who was known with that complexion was this man we are talking about. That man was in the presence of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari was eating, they were discussing, they started talking about the Dajjal. The man was from Banu Taymillah. He was an Arab from Banu Taymillah. That was his tribe. Ahmaru. He also has that complexion. If it was a woman, we say Hamra. If it was a man, we say what? Ahmaru. If it was a man, we say what? Ahmaru. Muzakkar. If it was a woman, we say what? Hamra. If we say Humaira, Humaira is the tasgir of Hamra. I hope that it is clear. So in this hadith, they said that that man was standing in front of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Ahmaru. That man has a complexion so bright, the way we have described. Min al-mawali. Ka'annahu min al-mawali. As if he was a slave man. Because it was in those days, those people who became slaves from the Persian Peninsula, from the Persian faraway, the Persian Empire, when it fell, their slaves were the ones who had that kind of a complexion. Or those from the Byzantine Empire in areas around Syria, before Arabs came to take over all these places. They were the ones who had this kind of complexion. So meanwhile, this man was an Arab. So that was why they said, Ka'annahu min al-mawali. His complexion was like the complexion of slaves that we brought from outside Arab land. Yuridu al-qailu annahu fi lawn al-mawali. The person who was giving this statement, if you go back to the books of hadith, that Imām Adh-Dhahabi referred to as al-qailu here, he was Zahdam ibn Zahdam Abu Muslim, Zahdam ibn Tarib al-Basri. He was the one speaking in this isnad. If we want to open this discussion, it will be opened up. But I want to quickly go over it so that we end this discussion on the complexion today, inshallah. The time is almost getting spent. So Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, Wal Hamra'u, that complexion we are talking about, fi khitabi Ahli al-Hijaz, in the way the people of the Arabian Peninsula they speak. He al-Bayda'u bi-shufratin. That is the brightness, the light, natural light complexion. The person did not bleach you. He will just have very bright, complexion. وَهَذَا نَادِرٌ فِيهِمْ. And this was a scarce complexion amongst the Arabs in the peninsula. وَمِنْهُ فِي الْحَدِيثِ. Something like it you find in the books of hadith is رَجُلٌ أَحْمَرُ. That man that had that bright complexion, كَأَنَّهُ مِنَ الْمَوَالِي, as if he was from amongst the slaves. يُرِيدُ الْقَائِلُ, the person who made that statement wanted to mean that أَنَّهُ فِي لَوْنِ الْمَوَالِي, that man had the complexion of the slaves, الَّذِينَ سُبُّوا, who were brought in as prisoners of war, مِن نَصَارَى الشَّامِ, from the Christians in Sham, ancient Syria, or Rome, in Byzantine Empire, Wal-Ajam, and those non-Arabs in the Persian Empire who became Muslims. This is talking about long ago, before the Persians mixed up with the Muslim world and accepted Islam. And Imām Adh-Dhahabi quickly went on to say, ثُمَّ إِنَّ الْعَرَبِ, also the Arabs, إِذَا قَالَتْ, when they say فُلَانٌ أَبْيَضْ, so and so person is whitish, فَإِنَّهُمْ يُرِيدُونَ حِنْطَيَ اللَّوْنِ, what they mean is that they refer to a person who has a complexion like wheat. If Arabs say this person is whitish, your color is like the color, your complexion is like that of wheat. بِحِلْيَةٍ سَوْدَاء, tending towards dark. You know the color of wheat, fine brown, tending towards the dark side of it. فَإِنْ كَانَ فِي لَوْنِ أَهْلِ الْهِنْدِ, if it is in the complexion of the Indians, قَالُوا أَسْمَرُ وَآدَمُ, because their own color is also more to the brownish color, the Indians. They say asmaru. They say asmaru. If it is an Indian, wa Adamu. That word Adam, the word Adam itself, also describes a complexion amongst the Arabs. Adam. That's why some scholars have that view that Adam alayhi salam was in that complexion. You know the complexion of a green leaf that is gradually becoming brown, drying up. When a green leaf is drying up, that brown color, that is the color Arabs refer to as Adam. Some scholars say that was the color of our father Adam, the color of wheat, but a bit more in the brownish shade. They refer to it as Adam or Asmaru. وَإِنْ كَانَ فِي سَوَادِ التُّكْرُورِ, if it is in the blackness of At-Tukrur. At-Tukrur is a huge area from after Sudan to Senegal. Huge. From after Sudan. So that includes Chad. It includes Nigeria. It includes Mauritania. It includes Senegal, Ghana, all of us like that. Arabs refer to that vast land as Bilad al-Tukrur. Bilad al-Tukrur. The lands of the Tokula tribe, Tukrur. You can go back and read about this. Bilad al-Tukrur. One of the scholars in Sokoto, if I remember his name, Muhammad Bello, he wrote a book, Tariikhu Bilad al-Tukrur. I have it long ago, more than 20 years ago. The history of the lands of Tukrur. If you read this, you know how Islam came into West Africa. What happened? The events, the scholars of these lands. What is it that has been written in Islamic history about these lands? Niger, Chad, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Mauritania, up to Senegal, we are referred to as Bilad al-Tukrur amongst the Arabs. So if it is the black of this kind, Qalu Aswad, Arabs will say you are Aswad. Do you get it? If you are black in the way we West Africans are black, what will they call you? Aswad. But if you are black in the way your color is dark like those of the Indians, they say you are Adam or Asmar. I hope that it is clear. Imām Adh-Dhahabi went on to say, وَكَذَا كُلُّ مَنْ غَلَبَ عَلَيْهِ السَّوَادِ. So every person that has the predominant color on him being black, they call him Aswad. It's the predominant. What you are closer to black than any other thing. They refer to you as black. Qalu aswad. They refer to you as black. Aw shadidul udma. They will say your udma, your being and Adam is shadid, is deep brown. I remember one Nigerian Nobel laureate in literature. He called that color chocolate Burundi. He called it chocolate Burundi. So Arabs will say he is shadidul udma, or they say he is what? Aswad. Why? Because in that chocolate Burundi color, you see that the predominant color is what? Black. So they either call you Aswad or they call you Shadidul Udma. A person who is brownish, but the deep brown part of the brown is very well pronounced. And from that is a hadith that the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam, bu'istu ila al-ahmari wal-aswadi. Have been raised to invite al-ahmar, the people who are light complexioned, wal-aswad, and people who are dark. They are both black and white. Have been raised to them. Don't forget the Prophet. Assalamu alaikum, Abu Abdur-Rahman. What was the last thing you heard me say?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That the Prophet...
What was the last thing you heard me say? Yes, he has been raised for both the black and the white. So Imām Adh-Dhahabi said, the meaning of that is that Anna Bani Adam, that the children of Adam, they will not be away from one of the two. If you are a human being, you are either black or you are what? Or you are light in your complexion. So Ahmar will take all kinds and shades of those who are light in their complexion. And Al-Aswad in this hadith will take care of all the various shades of the blackness, the complexions of human beings. So Imām Adh-Dhahabi went on to say, وَكُلُّ لَوْنٍ بِهَذَا الْإِعْتِبَارِ يَدُورُ بَيْنَ السَّوَادِ وَالْبَيَاضِ. And all these colors, if you consider this, is between black and white. الَّذِي هُوَ الْحُمْرَ. There are shades you find. So you can say someone is light skin, light complexion, and all of these. That is al-humra. What we came to this from is that statement of Uyayna ibn Hisn, and we said that hadith is very weak. It said that Uyayna was talking to the Prophet in the presence of Āishah. It's weak. Even though you find people who get busy with Arabic literature, they say it a lot, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam referred to somebody as al-ahmaqu al-muta'u fi qawmi, someone who is ahmaqul muta', al-ahmaqu al-muta'. He is an idiot, stupid person, yet he is followed by his people, the Prophet. And that it said that had this light complexion. And that was Arabs, very, very scarce. Two reports, two hadithan or hadithain that are authentic, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam referred to our mother Āishah as what? Umayra. I hope that is clear. Bismillah. We'll be addressing other issues in the marriage of Āishah radiyallahu anha with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. as we progress in our next class. It was about Humaira. So it is Sahih. There are two hadiths authentic wherein the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam referred to our mother Āishah as what? Humaira. I hope that it is clear, even though the majority of the scholars say that any hadith that contains Āishah being Humaira, that hadith is weak. So there are exceptions. Some scholars say one, others say no, there are two. If you do the research on this, you see there are two hadiths that are authentic, in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam referred to our mother as what? Humaira. And that's complexion is very light skin complexion. Beautiful. No stain on it. It's like brightening up.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, ya Shaykh.
Well, this hadith is clear. That was the explanation clear to us.
Naam, ya Shaykh.
If we have one or two questions that will help us get a clearer view of that reading, then we can come to it. Just talking about one of the things that was said to have happened to Āishah, that one man, Uyayna ibn Hisnin radiyallahu anhu, came to the Prophet and was referring to Āishah as Humaira. But we proved, Imām Adh-Dhahabi said no, it's a weak report. Humaira in this report is weak. And he gave 4 reasons to prove that it is weak and unreliable. That is not to say that our mother Āishah was not Humaira, because there are 2 hadiths that proves that she is Humaira. And what does Humaira mean amongst the Arabs? These were the matters that we investigated today, inshallah, because we'll be coming into another issue in the next class about her marriage, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, ya Shaykh.
Amin wa iyyakum. Can we take at least a question? Or we should call it a day? Time is already fast.
Naam, ya Shaykh.
We'll come in class tomorrow, inshallah. So you have a question with you?
Just a clarification. It's only a question. The person
Okay.
is asking, please, can you help us to know where we can look out for this hadith?
Which are hadith? The hadith on Umairah. You check in the books of hadith. That is where you know the job the scholars of hadith do. Now that they have said that hadith is not authentic, you start looking at the marajim. Masalan, Mu'jam al-Tabarani al-Kabir. You can go and check it. You can check a book like Musnad al-Bazzar, Imām al-Bazzar's Musnad. You can also check Al-Jami' al-Masanid or Jami' al-Masanid by Imam Ibn Kathir, the author of Tafsir. He has Jami' al-Masanid. He gathered Masanid. So you can go to these kinds of books of hadith. You find these kinds of reports. You can also one of their job is to go to all these books